Welcome to Pep Talks with Eric, where we shift gears from negative feedback loops and drive towards the life we truly want. I'm your host, Eric Ayers. I believe in the power of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Together, we'll explore how connections fuel our growth and create amazing experiences. In this podcast, we'll tune out the noise of the world and tune into what we really want and what really matters. So this is so dang fascinating to me, and I'm so glad you brought this up because we see the world, and I say we as a collective because this is my story speaking into existence, right? We see the world, or tend to see the world, in terms of these things that are happening to us, like we spoke about earlier. And it's interesting, as we start seeing the world differently, as we start shifting energy and start elevating energy and start looking within, all of a sudden, these events that are so detrimental in our previous self now become the greatest learning tools that we've ever had. Because now it's, oh, dude, like I can feel this. It is now, wait a minute. When I was first presented with this was how I reacted. And it was a reaction. Now, as I'm responding, I'm taking a minute, like, first of all, why is this creating this emotional, like, where is this coming from? It's not even me. This is on TV, on a documentary. Like, what in the world? And that people say, I don't know why this is so bothering me. No, look how far you've come, because before you would react and go in a 2-3 day mental cycle of destroying yourself, of negative self-talk. And now you're catching it and you're like, what is this energy and why is it here? Like, it is a huge celebratory place to be. Yep. And it's also like, you're on this energy of all, like, you are so close to propelling yourself to the greatness that you have within you.
Yeah. And let me, if I might, here's the thing, you're already great. It's your understanding of that greatness within you. Because, like, Eric, you and I have done the work. I fundamentally know that I'm nothing and everything all at once, and I'm good with it. Meaning, I know I am profoundly powerful, but that knowing doesn't negate the fact that I know that every other human in this world is equally powerful. The difference is I know that about them and they don't know about that themselves. And so what you just said is giving yourself, and this goes back to permission, guys. You've got to give yourself permission to say, you don't even have to make up a story. Like, I just kind of knew, it just came, it went, but boom. But sometimes I'll be emotional, I'll be in the car, and all of a sudden, woof, I gotta cry. I'm like, ooh, okay. And then 2 minutes later, I'm listening to Bob Marley do my thing, and I'm a happy clam, and I don't have to know. And I think, to the point of letting go, right? The book Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. It's so subtle, you'll miss it if you don't actually understand. Most of us, not all, but most of us identify with something greater than us. I don't know what it is, right? However you define it, Allah, Buddha, whatever. And yet, our logical ego mind thinks that we have to create this whole narrative around healing. Oh my God, I got to sit on the shrink's office and sit there and talk about my life for 20 years. And then I got to do this. And no, you don't. When you feel it and you heal it and you let it go. And that is the power of giving yourself permission to honor your experience in any given moment. That is authenticity, not just playing, not just singing, but feeling your feels in the moment.
I love that. I freaking love that, because it's ultimately about giving ourselves permission to explore everything. And that is also releasing. But I hear a lot from clients talk about, I don't want to feel sad. Like, this is bad emotions, and there's no such thing as a bad emotion. Like, the emotions are there to guide us, right?
Yep.
It's we have a thought, we interpret it, and that creates our emotions. So if we're having a bad emotion, if you're labeling that, then look at what you're interpreting, because whatever's coming in, you have the ability to shift that into whatever you want. And then that energy in motion, or emotion, will take you in the direction that you want to go. And then we can reciprocate this. So it comes down to, you mentioned it earlier, we have dichotomies. Like, everything is hot, cold, tall, short, good, bad. And to me, those are the two words that will cause me to sit on the fence when I don't need to. And they're arbitrary. Like, they're just made up. It's not good or bad. It just is. And it's my response to it. And that I have to remind myself quite often.
Yeah, well, that's why I encourage people all the time. What feels yummy, delicious, delightful, whatever, the word that just sparks a visceral feeling like love, right? You think about your puppy and your puppy licking your face, and right, that sparks and cultivates this visceral, yummy feeling, like however. And for me, I always say, don't make a choice whether you think it's right, wrong, good, bad, whatever the case is, because that's just a label, that's a construct that doesn't exist anyway. Instead, what if you make the decision that feels, this makes me feel super warm, super loving, super kind to myself in this moment. That's the choice we make, because if we feel that way, we're in a high energy. What happens, guys? We're magnets. You're attracting more of that energy. And so I'll give you a real good example, because I, like you, I have clients who struggle with that all the time. Oh, I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel whatever. Take, for example, the holidays, right?
Yeah.
My family, and this is just an example. My family, they're a bunch of alcoholics, and I know by 4 o'clock, like, everybody's drinking, and I just feels but so I ask, what do you want to do? What feels really juicy and good? Well, I want to stay home and watch movies and eat bonbons with my loved one. Stay home and eat bonbons with your loved one. Oh, well, I
Right.
can't do that because, well, why can't you? Well, because my family's going to be upset with me. Well, that may be the case, but what's going to feel good for you? And then, using the map of consciousness, which I love to give people, it's a scale. Guilt, to your point, is a wasted energy. Like, it just does not serve you at all. So if you can just say, well, this feels really good for me, and it doesn't have to make sense for my family. And check this out, guys. When you're operating from self-love, you're sending out love to the very people that you might be upsetting in their minds by not showing up. And you're more powerful in that state of love than you are ever when you go there. You are not honoring yourself, so you're not honoring your intuition. Now you're more likely to be responsive and reactive. Then what happens? Something unfolds, and what do? You end up in the same cycle of guilt that you wanted to avoid in the first place, and could have, if you just decided to do what felt really good for you, like yummy and juicy and nurturing.
Yep. I love the adjectives, because it shifts our normal vocabulary into something like, I mean, it snaps us out of it. And yeah, yummy, delicious. Like, honestly, when you were saying that, I'm a very sensory person, and the greatest feeling in the world is when you wake up in the morning and you get to lay there, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I've got 2 more hours of sleep, and you cover up and you're like, oh my gosh, the sensations can't get any better. And so that's what came to mind. To your point, I think it's very important to understand from the psychological side of things is, when they are mad at you for saying no, it's because they envy your ability to keep your power and to give yourself permission to make the choices that are best for you. Because we don't feel as a collective that we have the ability to do that, because we're people pleasing. At least from my experience and what I've heard, it's people pleasing. And from an energy level of living with type 1 diabetes, I've learned that Not experiencing the sweetness of life creates this dis-ease. And one thing that I've recently learned is that pleasing others does not allow me to enjoy the sweetness of my life. And that was an eye opener. And so
It's true.
to your point, I don't have to live up to your unrealistic expectations. I'm going to live up to my expectations. And if I don't succeed the way that I think I am or am going to, then I'm going to keep doing me
Yeah.
until I get there. But either way, the guilt's out. And if anybody wants to learn what is created on a physical level from guilt and shame, I recommend you checking out Louise Hay, who brilliantly and beautifully describes her own journey of what that was created and how she overcame that. I want to
Well,
dive
yeah,
into,
because
yeah.
yeah, it manifests into, I mean, think about it, guys. If you're sitting in pervasive guilt and shame, you have autoimmune diseases, high risks of cancer,
Mm-hmm.
stroke. I mean, you name it, on top of the fact you're most likely diagnosed with some mental health condition, pervasive. And that's the problem. And this is where I have such a fundamental issue with labels, particularly in addiction and mental health, because most people associate themselves with a label, and that label now has, through their own ideas and the story around, limited them from experiencing the fruits, the fullness, the yumminess of life, because they believe something's wrong with them. And that's simply not true. They may have had a moment in time where they experienced something because they didn't know who they were, and
Yeah,
they were disconnected from their spirit or energy or whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I love Louise Hay because she can help people understand when they're sitting in guilt and shame based on the experiences they're having, either with mental health or physical health conditions.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, we as a family, we find ourselves if we're having, right knee pain. I'm like, what did Louise say about this? And so I open her book and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can definitely see where my ego is running the show right now. But it's very interesting, and it's seeing the world through a different lens, and it's
Yep.
also giving myself permission to explore and utilize whatever works. Because the avenues in which you and I use to journey doesn't mean that that's the only way that we can get there. Like everyone is their unique self. And the beauty is when we all work together to give little knowledge nuggets of check this out. And then that leads to other things. And then all of a sudden you're having synchronicities that are like, wait a minute, I never would have came to this moment if this conversation would have happened. And it begins to unfold. So as we begin to start closing this down, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
What is, and we've talked about many, many different things in terms of tools and ways that we can move forward. If someone is feeling stuck, if someone is feeling like they don't know what to do, there's a purpose within them, there's a burning desire that they know is still there, but it's being hidden. What is one step or one thing that they could do to begin shifting into the amazingness that they are?
Yeah. Hands down, appreciation practice or gratitude. But recently, my friend Drew Mack highlighted that to appreciates, which means it grows and expands in value. So I do like that analogy. But there's just so much evidence that suggests that a daily gratitude or appreciation practice rewires your brain. Now, just like you were talking about, um, cultivating a feeling. So you don't want to just sit here and be like, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm
Mm.
grateful for that. You want to cultivate a feeling. And so for anybody out there, when I started this practice, I struggled with alcoholism, right? I was really apathetic to a lot of my life, but I love the way a dark, good cup of black coffee tastes while I take a hot shower. And so I could imagine that feeling. And so I would just write down and be really grateful for that experience. And then another one, if you do that, 5 things every morning, you are rewiring your neural pathways to help you find more things to appreciate. And that is going to help build momentum that's going to shift your energy upwards. And to what Eric was saying, you start to have synchronicities, you start to attract things, and that's going to help you find your way forward in a really gentle and nurturing way.
Beautiful. And that is how we elevate. That's how we begin to elevate that energy to begin attracting
Yep.
that like energy. And I love that you brought appreciation and gratitude into the mix. I had Drew on, and he talked about appreciation appreciates,
Yep.
and I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Yep.
One thing I love about gratitude is, especially when you are seeing and being gratitude for something not yet here, gratitude has a future signature. So when you close your eyes and you see whatever it is. So if I see myself like snuggled up in a sleeping bag, camping out, so comfortable, like my body has no idea that I'm not there. And I'm so grateful and thankful for this, that it's releasing endorphins that are very similar to having the experience in real time.
Yep.
And so it's creating this avenue of what we want. And this goes for everything. It doesn't have to be this wild, grand idea. It can be the simple things at first until we begin to cultivate this. So I love that. Thank you. We've talked about a few books. Is there one book or resource that completely shifted everything in your life at that time, maybe shook you into a different reality? And if so, what is it?
That I can't answer because I am incredibly well read, and depending on where I'm at in any given moment, it just is a different book. What I would say right now, a book that encapsulates a similar journey. I didn't follow this guy. I didn't even know about him until a couple months ago, but who I think speaks to and nails it from any perspective, whether you're kind of stuck in that lower vibration or you're on your journey and needing a little oomph, is A Changed Mind by David Bear. And it's recent. And the reason I like it is it gives you strategies, but it's storytelling, and it gives you the understanding of how to go from apathetic, guilt, shame, all of those things, examine your beliefs and break free from those chains that bind you.
Oh, nice. I will have to check that one out. I have not read that one yet.
Yeah, it's good.
I do want to point out, I love the way that you answered that question, because
Yeah.
yes, you are very well read, and I love that because it showcases books are and resources are meant for us at certain times. And if I've had many books that have sat on my shelf for 2 years and all of a sudden I started reading them, well, there's a reason behind that. It wouldn't have had the same impact. So, okay. Lastly, where can people find you? Because people are going to want your help, and where can they find you?
I mean, I'm easy. It's kerrylewis.coach, kerrylewis.coach on social media, except for YouTube, which is kerrylewis.coaching. But really, guys, my phone number is on my website. And I work a lot with people who are sitting in deep suffering, right? Whether it's mental health or addiction. And I say, when you have that moment of courage, because that's all you need, is that moment of fed up and taking action. Pick up the phone and call, because that one moment where you chose yes to yourself could have a pivotal, um like, profound changes in your whole experience.
Absolutely. And thank you. And please reach out to her if you ever want to have a text message with someone singing a message to you, which I can tell you is a fact. Miss Kerrie will do that, and she is so intuitive. She follows her own guides and is amazing. So connect with her. She is a jewel. So Kerrie, thank you so much. We're going to have all of those linked below so people can can find you. But is there any last words you want to say before we hop off?
Yes. My signature is laugh well and often. And one of my 2 intentions every morning is to laugh well. No matter where we're at, the ability to laugh can break up some of the hardest, most difficult work that we do. So, if you're not finding ways to laugh, I encourage you to seek laughter, because laughter fundamentally for me is absolutely the best medicine.
Well, absolutely. And what a great way to end this, because I mean, the childlike laughter is medicine for our souls. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible conversation. I had an absolute blast. I could talk for hours and hours.
I know, that's an honor and a privilege to share space with you, Eric. Thank you.
Likewise, and I appreciate it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Rewind it, watch it again. Remember, the only permission you need is from yourself. And there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There just is. So in that being, simply and profoundly be you, be courageous, and tap into the amazingness that you are. You are here for great things. You are doing great things. Be kind to yourself. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, be well, be loved. Thank you for joining me on Pep Talks with Eric, where together we shift our focus, brace connection, and drive towards a more fulfilling life. Remember, it's not just about where you're headed, but how you choose to travel along the way. As you continue your journey, know that you have the power to change lanes and focus on the path that leads to positivity, purpose, and connection. Let's stay connected and continue empowering your journey one commute at a time. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. And until then, be well, be loved.